Gemma, I love this. Tell me a little bit about your story, how you ended up with opening the Allotment and what the Allotment is.
Okay, so for the last 4 or 5 years I've operated a business purely online, and to be totally honest, it was more out of necessity because it is so expensive to operate a bricks and mortar place, and you're never quite sure whether a food venue is viable until you fully tested it, and you're kind of a little bit too far in with spending the money and setting it all up until you realise that. So my food business started as a bit of a side hustle, to be honest, alongside working part-time. I was operating from home and I did a meal delivery service, recipe boxes, and we did catering as well. One of the things that was really good for, because it was established just before lockdown, and then that's when everybody needed it. So it did suddenly expand my customer base and mean that more people were wanting to try different things. They had more time to cook as well. And my big focus really for everything I do, I want to try and make sure that there's more vegetables and everything. So it is like that health focus, but it needs to be comfort food. And then that's always been translated through every single one of my products, or the catering and everything that I've done. So that's when this opportunity came up, I knew that I'd fully road tested it and that actually it had legs, and that was it. Yeah.
So when you got the idea to set up the brick and mortar business, your location is quite tucked away, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's not like you've got a whole load of traffic going past that are naturally going to see you. And I've been following your story on Instagram, and one of the things that I think is really important in any business is visibility. If nobody knows who you are, nobody can buy from you. There's a lot of talk on social media, there's loads of training and there's loads of gurus teaching us how to do this as an online business. But I think sometimes the message is lost if it's a brick and mortar business, if it's a place, a geographical place, we sort of lose that. But you've actually had a really, I would say, as an observer, a brilliant amount of visibility through your social media posting. What was your strategy behind that?
I think the strategy, it's quite interesting really, because I just carried on as I was before. So everything that I was having to do to make sure that people knew that I existed when I was just working from my house, because obviously nobody turned up on my doorstep, it was all on the internet, and I literally existed in a virtual world. So unless you go out and put yourself out there, then you're not going to get any customers and you're not going to make any money. So that whole mindset's just, sort of, it's been quite an organic shift really. So it's lucky in a way that I've already got that way of thinking, because as you say, where we are, you need to be told and that it is something to come to, and it's this is here, this is here, this is here, this is the kind of service you'll get, and but that comes naturally, I think, because I've gone through that process of starting online first, because there are too many places that do a few stock images of their menu, whack their opening hours up, and apart from maybe a post for Halloween, a post for Christmas, we're doing Mother's Day something or other, it's a necessary evil for them, and they don't do it as part of the business plan. And
you did a bit of a hybrid though, so you've done the old-fashioned sort of leafleting through the doors. Why wasn't that enough?
Just because of where we are, we're right within a residential area, so actually it does mean that the neighbours and the people that are really local aren't necessarily the kind of people that are on social media and on Instagram and things. So they do appreciate a leaflet through the door, so they've got that information. Whereas there are obviously a number of people who are Facebook users, they use the Facebook groups, the village Facebook groups, so we've done a bit of that. And then Instagram was always my domain anyway, and then more sort of newly added LinkedIn. So that's been quite good as a, sort of trying to make sure that local businesses see us and they share things. And even the people that have done the signage have shouted about it. The people that supply the tea and coffee have shouted about it because it's local businesses. So actually they're really keen to support and get
that
people
collaborative.
Definitely.
And you're posting is very much storytelling, and I don't know, was that a deliberate plan?
I think that's just a window inside my brain.
Yeah, I mean, I genuinely think, what is it they say? You know, facts tell, stories sell.
Yeah.
And without being too blunt about it, cafes are pretty much 10 a penny, aren't they? You can get cafes anywhere. But the whole ethos of the allotment is unique.
Yes.
You know, we'll talk about that in a sec, because I think that's really fundamental to the storytelling.
Yeah, definitely.
But without the story behind it, you're just another
chain
I
cafe.
mean, exactly, you're not a chain, you're an independent, but you're just another dog just weeing up against the car wheel of my car.
Oh no.
There you go. There's lovely big windows in the allotment, and an aside. That's my ADHD brain getting distracted. Tell us about the story. Tell us why, not so much why, but what the ethos of the allotment is all about.
Okay, so I think the easiest way to explain it is under the sort of B Corp, sort of approach. So
explain B Corp.
B Corp. So for people who don't know what B Corp is, B Corp is essentially a set of criteria that really every business should try and follow. It is the case that if you can strive to give your staff very fair sort of conditions, look after them, train them well, make sure that they've got opportunities to, grow and develop within your team, then you've done a massive tick on in your box, everywhere.
Doing the right thing.
Yeah, doing the right thing. I mean,
not just for the people, but for the environment.
Yeah, and then the
everything.
community, and the whole ethos is sort of making more of a positive impact, rather than just setting up a cafe to make lots of money and not really bothering about anything else. Thinking about where you're sourcing your ingredients, how you're looking after your suppliers, making sure that you're paying them fairly, making sure that you're thinking about your waste, reducing your waste, but then thinking about what you're actually consuming as well. The energy stuff. So this place has solar panels on the roof as well. It's very lucky, part of the Gusto head office. So they've obviously got the very same sort of thought process as me in terms of that sort of green agenda, but it isn't just the classic greenwashing thing where we're saying, we've got plastic-free takeaway coffee cups, tick, we've done our bit. It goes so much further than that.
In what way? What is the depth to it?
The depth to it is, as we were discussing before, if there are slight delays to certain things being put on the menu because I'm not happy with the quality of the suppliers, or if we're having to just hold off because we're supporting our veg suppliers in giving them a little bit more time to develop their product so they're happy with it, we're willing to work with that and compromise on what we're offering to customers, because we don't want to just go and get some products from Tesco's shrink wrapped in plastic to then tart them up and put them on the menu and pretend that they are locally grown, whatever. It is the case that it's important, and actually that's kind of, some people think that I'm stroppy and really stubborn, but actually it's for a good reason, because it's authentic.
Yeah, and if that is the purpose, the passion behind what you're doing, is that it's local, good quality plant-based foods that have a good origin to them.
Yes, definitely.
Then you know, to go and shop down at Lidl's for your nothing wrong with Lidl. For your mushrooms, because your supplier can't give them to you, goes completely against the whole sort of purpose of what you're doing. And you've got your own allotment as well, haven't you?
It's pending. Growing. Yeah, it's a bit. It bit me the other day, the courgette plant.
Oh God, show everybody.
It's really cool.
Who knew courgettes could be so aggressive?
Quite violent. I know, and I'm vegan. I'm not nasty. So it's and to be quite honest, I put all those plants in there in the raised beds, and when we put them in, there were teeny tiny little saplings, and I thought, oh no, they're not going to survive the heat wave that we had, and they've been brilliant because we've got a good team that are looking after us, and there's one person that's really good at gardening, and she's quite keen to look after everything, but we've thought carefully about what we've put in there so that we can use it in the kitchen. We're starting to get relationships with local people that have their own allotments, so the residents around here have already come in and offered us whatever, you know. So
it's a real community venture, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I'm quite looking forward to having like Kev's gooseberries on a muffin, and it, you know, like we are going to make a feature of it and be like, oh, this is, you know, soup of the day, and it's got Barbara's, you know, leeks in it, you know.
Yeah,
that
brilliant.
kind of thing.
And this, so the whole storytelling, I mean, content creation is hard for most businesses, but when you're running a team and you're running a cafe and you're running all of the other bits, I know you've got somebody that helps you on your team with the sort of the social media stuff, but that story's the evolution of the allotment. I can imagine you're going to catalogue through your Instagram, and I think it is, you know, it's the difference that makes the difference, isn't it?
And I think the key to it is as well that a lot of people overthink the social media thing. They think that everything's got to be perfect. And I've got to admit, I did start like that. I wanted everything glossy because I've got a bit of a history of doing photography, and, you know, because of my teaching and creative background. So I definitely thought I wanted everything composed perfectly, you know, the classic Instagram cookbook recipe type shot. And I very quickly realised that I didn't get as much engagement. It was always the daft things where I was like, oh, oops, I used the blender and it splattered up my face. I was like, that's it, which is literally like, you know, that's what's under the apron as well. So it is the case that, you know, just doing it is enough. And you can still have some little polished bits, but that's what makes it easier to fit in.
Beautifully polished content. For a start, I think it takes away from the fact that actually this is a really comfortable environment just to come into. I came in on my own, and actually I don't care about going and sitting in places on my own, but a lot of people feel uncomfortable going into a cafe or somewhere and just sitting on their own. And I think if your content was super polished and super...
feel a bit intimidating.
Yeah, it could be a bit intimidating, whereas I think the whole story is, look, we are a gorgeous, approachable team. Come and have some really good quality plant-based foods.
Exactly, and we all talk the leg off the table. You know, we're quite happy to sit and talk to you about vegetables. Dog seems to be a hot topic as well. Like if you bring your dog in, you're likely to just be.
So it is dog friendly.
It is dog friendly.
Yeah, it must be, because one of them is just weighed up against my car wheel.
So we are dog friendly, but there's a number of people on the team that will quite happily talk about, you know, the gardening stuff, the allotment stuff, obviously the food, whatever, the cakes, the baking and all that kind of thing. You know, we're quite happy to sort of share ideas, and there's no secrets. Like we do make pretty much everything in-house, and it's made from scratch, but it's not like secret recipes, because they're actually going to become part of the recipe boxes, so you're actually going to be in on the secret anyway. So
and I love that as well, actually, this sort of sharing, and it's not about keeping everything to yourself, but actually putting it out there. So you've got your social media, but what other strands have you used in terms of getting visible? So trade shows or anything like that?
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Since COVID, there's not been a whole lot of stuff about. There's been a few things online that have been, you know, sort of like networking type opportunities, but the main thing that's really helped recently is actually my partnership with the Lincolnshire Co-op. So doing a lot of workshops and recipe development, things with them, has made me a little bit more accessible, I suppose, because they've not particularly said that I'm vegan. I don't do vegan food, I just do food that is plant-based, you know, and it's whole food plant-based. It's not sort of like lots of meat alternatives. So there's a big, you know, huge group in the community that actually need to eat more like that for their own health and well-being. And I think the Co-op are very mindful of that, which is why they've, you know, used me for a number of things. Obviously, you know, doing cooking demonstrations at their annual meeting, and then, you know, 2 days on the trot at the Lincolnshire show doing on rotation cooking demonstrations for them. I think that definitely helps this place, because I'm sort of a normal person and it doesn't look...
Well, that's arguable, Gemma, to be fair.
These guys don't know that. But it means that you know, people will not see it as it's vegan, I can't touch it, you know, because I don't tend to use that word anyway.
I just had the chili and nachos, the bean chili, and I have to say, you wouldn't feel like you missed out.
You wouldn't feel like you've
It was absolutely lovely. So what's next? What other plans have you got? So you've got the cafe, but it's more than that, isn't it?
Yeah. So I keep referring to this as the shop front. So it's like, I suppose most people see their Instagram page as their shop front or their website as that. This is now my shop front. So obviously we're able to have people in and feed them. We're going to have a lot more partnerships and collaboration with Gusto and the co-work space that's there as part of their sort of big
So
wellbeing.
Gusto are the people that own the whole complex. So they've got offices and co-working space and a gym coming.
The gym's coming.
So it's a complex altogether pretty.
Yeah, so it is going to be the case that there's going to be lots of opportunities there, but then that gives me more networking chances to like sort of link up with other businesses. So there are various ideas that are already in early stages of development, like the recipe boxes, bringing those back as sort of a hybrid meal prep thing. So it is kind of what I was doing in lockdown, but it is more appropriate for the modern world where no one's got as much time anymore. Making sure that we offer a ready meal option or a range of ready meal options, not only just in the deli, but maybe possibly as a delivery service as well. It's kind of like sexy meals on wheels, that's what we keep calling it.
Like that, sexy meals on wheels.
I might just call it that because we can't think of a sensible name, so that, that'd get the engagement rate up online, won't it? But then the other conferences and education things as well that we want to try and take the lead on. So workshops to do with food and nutrition and mental health and hormone balance and all that kind of thing, because that is
often lost, isn't it?
Yeah, it's that bit that's missing. And I've been doing quite a lot of work over the last year because of my background in education, and actually I've been supporting some teacher training this year. It is quite striking actually how that is just not a thing that's discussed, and you have great swathes of NHS staff, education staff, emergency services staff that are just eating rubbish. Being,
my daughter's a nurse and I know
really
that
thinly.
On a 12 and a half hour shift, actually finding time to eat well as much as anything else is difficult.
So it's kind of, I'm quite keen to sort of make some noise basically and get a bit stroppy, and particularly for the teachers as well, because I think they get forgotten. So
I've got to touch on it. You have undiagnosed but very highly suspected ADHD. We've talked about this off air lots of times. Has it been a strength or a challenge having those ADHD traits and behaviours in setting up something? Because there's a lot of moving parts.
There is a bit of both, and I think it depends on which element we're talking about. So because my brain obviously works as it does mean that the interior is, this is my happy place doing like bits and pieces like this, and actually I find that really easy. I know that other people don't necessarily, and I think that's possibly where the ADHD superpower thing comes in. The having a number of plates spinning at the same time is fine, as long as they don't all sort of come crashing down at the same time. And that's the thing with doing a project like this, because obviously I've been working quite closely with the construction guys that have built it and all the people that have fitted the kitchen and everything, and they have been absolutely amazing. They have been very patient with my nonsense when I've gone, could you please just screw that up there because I've decided that actually I want that there. It's kind of, I'm planned to a point, and I am a really organised person because that is my only way that I can manage it. But I do think sometimes when you take on a project like this, you never quite realise how big it is and what could happen, and you can have all your ducks in a row 1 minute and then something goes wrong. That could be the fact that there's a delay on some equipment being delivered, and that's just something that's completely out of your control. But I think in my brain that just makes it go, oh no, like what now? And then you have to completely unpick everything. It's been very difficult for me to actually calm down and go, do you know what, the team are brilliant, we're fine. And that's something that's been the big difference doing this, because you know, and I mean, it's a big advert for hiring the right people, actually. And I think if you feel like you've got that supportive team around you, that yes, they've been employed to work in a cafe, but it's so much more than that, because they get it.
Well, they're buying into the whole.
Yeah, and because it's starting it from scratch, it's a
well,
complete different concept, isn't it? You're not just sort of turning up, putting your apron on and making some coffee. They've been helping do the setup and getting it all ready, and, you know, making plans and working out what we're putting on the menu. I've made sure it's a collaborative thing, because I was very aware that for me to navigate this with my brain being as it is, I needed to make sure I sort of shared the burden. It's a bit difficult when you're a control freak, though, isn't it?
Well, it's that as well, and I don't know if you find this, but I'm a great starter and not a great completer. So I will have great vision, great ideas, but actually implementing them through to completion, I find quite difficult.
And it's lovely when it happens, and then you go, oh, I've actually done it.
And I guess that's where having the right people on your team to keep, you know, having the guys from Gusto to keep the project planning going, and the guys that are working in the cafe now
being
to bring it all
accountable
together
for sort of certain things and making sure that they're giving you a nudge where necessary. But I think as well, having the people around you where you go, right, I've thought of this idea, and then you have a discussion and then go, I think you need to take the lead on that. And for me, that has been absolutely, oh my God, having that person that's doing my social media now, I'm like, yes. Because I'm quite happy to do it, but it's just, and it's, I think when it's your baby and it has just been you for however long, it's very difficult.
So I'm going to put you on the spot, Gemma. What 3 bits of advice would you give a female entrepreneur looking to set up a brick and mortar type business? What have you been your biggest 3 learnings?
So I think collaboration's key, whether you still want to do it just on your own, and, you know, it is your business and your limited company or whatever. I think you still need to go through a really thorough sense check and planning process, even if it's just like-minded people, you know, that you know from the school playground kind of thing, like just, and you don't need to call it a focus group, you don't need to call it any formal thing, just need to blast out the ideas and go, right, would this work, wouldn't it work, and actually test a few things out. I think most of us have, you end up in a bit of an echo chamber sometimes, don't you, and you end up with people saying that things are brilliant, because it's like those little kids that go on X Factor because the mums have said that they're amazing. You end up in that little, you know.
So when you're saying about, you know, asking for that sense check, I guess there's also the danger that you're asking the people who, like you say, want to say the right thing to make you feel good. But so it's actually about finding people who maybe have done it before.
So definitely having that person that's got the experience of doing it, and actually the best people are the ones that have made the mistakes, you know, and learned through that process, or done it the hard way because they didn't have anyone, so actually they've had to literally work everything out from scratch, which I know you know about. So it's making sure that you've got that support, because actually if they can go, well, this will take 2 years actually, if you do it this way.
You know, you don't want to reinvent the wheel, and if you can learn from their mistakes. Okay, so collaboration.
I think a reality check as well. Just the money is a big factor, and it is something that you can't just grow a money tree and make everything happen. I think you need to start small and build, and actually nobody has to be a CEO from week 1. There are a number of people, I think this is a social media thing as well, that people will put on their bio that they're an owner of it makes it sound like they're an owner of a really big company and that they've got everything,
it's a lot of pressure on you,
all sorted, and it just makes it sound like it's something that it isn't. I think there's maybe in the past there was a stigma around saying, no, it's just me, I'm doing this and I want to build it, and you know, but that's not the case anymore. I think since lockdown and that whole period of people working from home and people starting their own business and things, I think people are quite mindful that actually you can be really successful and just start from really basic, you know, from your kitchen table almost, and build something amazing. but I think that level of authenticity and that sort of, you know, reality check of just don't lie, don't try and, the whole fake it till you make it thing, I don't really buy into, because I think it sets you up to fail.
And again, it comes back to that story, doesn't it? I think people are on your side if they see you, warts and all,
they're
through
rooting
your
for
journey,
you.
through your journey. Brilliant. And a third?
A third, I can't think of anything that's not just really blunt.
Oh, be blunt. I like blunt.
Work hard. I mean, it is, you need to have a balance, but you do need to, and you need to sleep. That's something I've learned the hard way.
Yeah. I think people underestimate the hard work, though, don't they? They see, what's it, you know, 10 years to be an overnight success. I think we forget, you know, using the allotment analogy, the hard work is in the preparing the ground, the digging it over, the planting, the nurturing the seed. And once it's actually, once the stuff's come through and it's blossoming, that's the time to take a rest.
I think it is that, and part of that.
What do you like what I did there? I did a story there.
It's nice.
By the way.
It's good. But the part of the working hard thing is just sort of having that that approach where you pause and you reflect on what you're doing, and actually you go, right, this is working, this isn't, let's carry on. Don't see the first failure as that's it, it's all over. You have to be resilient, and you have to sort of make sure that you're constantly evolving, and that's, I think it's possibly, and I do keep getting told this, that this is probably my education background that makes this easier for me, because that's obviously what we always used to do with the kids, because it's not the case that you get the first mark in your test and you go, well, that's your GCSEs, you might as well not bother, love, you know. Can you imagine? So you actually go, right, let's look at what worked, what didn't, and then keep going. And that's the working hard thing, I think. Don't be fooled that it's all going to fall into your lap first time, but don't burn yourself out either. You've got to just be kinder to yourself, and if it doesn't work, it's not the end of the world. It just means that you need to reassess and work out to make it fit for you.
They say, don't they, you either get what you want or you get what you need, and maybe the lesson is what you need when you don't get the outcome you want.
It's
not about you.
And
it didn't work. It just didn't work that way, and let's find a different way to do it. Have you had a few of those?
Definitely.
How can people find you?
Well, there's an interesting one.
Geographically, it's Lemonard.
I was going to say, don't look at Google Maps because you'll never get here. That's another story. So if you go to the Allotment Collingham on Instagram, so we've got a very new, shiny new Instagram page there. But if you want to look at my original stuff, I'm on Eat More Good Stuff on Instagram, and then there's lots of links and things anyway to all my other things that I do. So all the talks and the corporate bits. Random bits of Rory Underwood popping up when he comes to use your coffee machine, and Bosch when I go and visit them and they pop and see us. So it's there's lots of stuff going on, and then I'm on LinkedIn, so if you just look for Gemma Whitelock, I'm there. Fab.
Gemma, good luck. It's absolutely brilliant. It's your first week open, I think, isn't it?
First few days.
First few days, and it's just, I know it's going to be a big success. You've got a great space and you've got a great personality, and I can't imagine why anybody wouldn't want to come and eat here. And thanks for giving me your time, because I know you're actually working.
I know. I've just delegated.
The art of delegation. Brilliant. Thanks, Gemma.
Thank you.